Hey guys, the Explorer 4 here, the Horror Boy, and I figured tonight I would wrap up some reviews on the Predator franchise, and today we're going to be getting to the 2010 film called Predators, and get the 6.4 on IMDb directed by Nimrod Antal, which I swear to God I thought his name was Nimrod Anal when I first seen his name. I was like, really, this guy's name is Nimrod Anal? But no, his name is Nimrod Antal, and he directed a couple things. I know he did Vacancy, which I'm a big fan of. I actually really enjoy Vacancy. Hell, I don't even mind the sequel. I think the sequel, Vacancy to the First Cut, or the prequel, is a decent little film. But I think it's funny how when you pull up his when you pull up his filmography here, his most known for things, his top four most known for things, is a director of a movie called Control, and director of Predators, director of a Metallica documentary, I think. Yeah, it's called Metallica Through the Never. I think it's a documentary. And then he's also known for a Bodyguard and Machete. So I just always found it funny how it's like those three big things, and then he was just a small little role in Machete. But this film, I remember when it came out in 2010, and went and got it. Actually from Blockbuster way back in the day and seen it. We didn't see it in theaters. We actually waited until it came out on DVD and checked it out. And of course, Robert Rodriguez has been involved with this project. I believe he was producing it, and he was heavily behind this movie. Was a big supporter of this film during its release. I remember seeing a lot of interviews and stuff like that of him talking about this film. And I won't lie, when I first seen this movie as a kid, I actually really liked it. I was really into the film, and I said I was a really big fan of it. But anymore when I watch it, I don't really think it's that great of a film. I mean, for some reason, it gets a higher rating than the second movie. Now, why it has a higher rating than the second movie, I don't know. The second movie gets a 6.3. This gets a 6.4. I'm sorry, this movie is... Obviously, it's not getting a rant, but it's not a very good movie. It's just maybe barely a time waster for me. It's kind of one of those math movies where I don't really hate it. It's just not really a movie I care for too much. And as they make more Alien and Predator films, I think it's going to be one of those ones that kind of fades away in the distance. Because, I don't know, man. To get into this movie, I mean, pretty much it starts out, these people... Interesting plot. They're falling from the sky, just randomly falling from the sky, and when they land, of course, they all have parachutes and stuff like that. Well, some of them do. One guy just falls and hits the ground. But some of them have parachutes, and when they land, they start figuring out that these are all drug lords or drug dealers or military members. And pretty much they are a group of these Earth, pretty much elite warriors. You know, soldiers, people know how to handle weapons and stuff like that, know how to survive. Some people are just kind of wild cards in there. Like, there's one guy that has a samurai sword, and there's one guy that, is a convict. And the thing I will point out with this movie, though, is that it has a great cast, but the acting is not very good in this film. And I'll get more into that in a second, but pretty much these guys land, and they all start talking to each other, and... they start figuring out that this is pretty much, this jungle atmosphere are these hunting grounds. And they've been kind of put in there to see if they can survive the predators. And there's been multiple predators released towards them. And, it's pretty much these group of people versus the predators. And as the movie goes along, they meet people like, Lawrence Fishburne, who's been there for a while. There's a predator that's been kind of, I guess maybe the weak link predator or whatever. He's been kind of beaten and he's tied up, and he ends up helping these guys out a little bit towards the end of the movie. Which, to me, it is kind of like he's the original Predator, I think, maybe. And that's the thing, we'll get into the problems with this movie. There's a lot of problems, but I will say this. There's definitely a decent amount of good things in this movie. First of all, I like the fact that, they tried to be different. They tried to be new with these Predators and how they went with the Aliens formula and having multiple Predators, which equals, you would think, multiplied threat. But we'll get into that in a second. But I do respect the fact they tried to do something different with the Predator, and they tried doing something new, and with the actual Predator character. I am a fan of the action. I am a fan of the practical effects that are in the film. There's not much, but when they're there, they're there. Mainly, this movie only has going for it is action. This movie has some fantastic action. I think the way that it's shot, sometimes the action scenes, they're very, very, very well done. And that's probably the only good thing about this movie, because really, I don't remember the score. I don't remember half these characters. They aren't very good actors. There's nothing memorable about them. And the thing is, you have a great cast. I mean, Adrian Brody, I've seen him in a movie called The Jacket. If you guys have ever seen that movie, actually, I'm kind of curious to see what that movie gets on IMDb, but I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was really good. But I know that he's like an Academy Award winner. Or at least a nominee. I mean, he's been in plenty of Academy Awards and stuff like that. And you know, he's definitely been at least a runner up. I think he's even won a couple of Oscars or whatever. But I know he's a very celebrated. I'm actually a big fan of Adrian Brody. I just don't think he was a very good cast in this movie. Like, you have Arnold in the first movie. Then you had Danny Glover, which in my opinion was a great follow-up. And then you have Adrian Brody. This guy that... I hate the way he talks in this movie. He has this raspy voice to make him sound like maybe a Batman type. Like, let's go find the Predator. I'm just like, dude, just don't do that. That's not... It doesn't make you sound intimidating. It doesn't make you sound badass. It makes you sound really dumb. So he puts on this really bad voice. You also have Topher Grace in this movie playing a character named Edwin. And now he is from Spider-Man 3. And I am not a fan of this guy. Sorry, nothing against the guy personally, but every movie I've seen him in, I haven't enjoyed his performance in. Nothing towards the guy personally, just I'm not a fan of his acting. I'm not a fan of him in this movie either. You got Alice Braga, you got, Walton Goggins, Lawrence Fishburne, Danny Trejo. You got all kinds of really good cast members here. You even got Derek Mears playing a classic Predator, which I think is the guy that gets tied up and is pretty much being beaten and tortured. You also got Brian Still playing some Predators. And, so a great cast. I'm just like, looking at this cast, I'm like, how did this movie fail? Because it has a great cast. And I think if this movie failed in with characters, is that, especially when you have a threat like the Predator, your characters have to be able to work together and have arcs and have trust and have chemistry, and there has to be building of a team in this movie. And this film really struggled with building in team members. Like, this to me is not a team. To me, in the first movie, you had Arnold and you had his entire group of mercenaries, and they were each their own characters. They each had arcs, they each had characteristics, they each had chemistry and charisma, and you really felt the performances in that film. Even in Predator 2, Danny Glover and his partners, I mean, you really bought the chemistry between them. And in this movie, it's just kind of like they're all there, they argue a lot, they don't really work together that much, they're not really... And it makes sense because they're all strangers. But then again, you'd expect some kind of teamwork out of these people when most of these guys are just looking out for themselves. And they try to put some twists in there that I don't really care for. And to get into the bad stuff, I mean, first of all, the score is forgettable. I don't remember one piece of music from this movie, besides the music they copied from the first Predator, which that's just copying music. There's not really much to it. There's no new music. At least Predator 2 kind of had like a different kind of sounding score, along with the older score, but they also ramped up the score a little bit more. Here it's just rehashing the score from the first movie. There's a lot of similarities in this movie. This is one of those very few instances where it's like a reboot that's kind of like being a remake, where it's in a jungle. Again, the jungle looks exactly like the one from the first movie, just like it. They even use the same music. They have the same scenes. A guy staring at the Predator, grabs a sword, cuts his chest, and is challenging the Predator to come on. That happened in this film. Certain death scenes, certain aspects that are pretty much rinse and repeat in this film that I felt really made it tread that line of being a remake. So, I didn't like that. I didn't like the CGI, especially in the Predator dogs. I'm not a fan of that idea either, having Predator dogs. It's just bad CGI, bad idea. I'm not a fan of how this is the point in the series where the old Predator is treated like dog shit. And what I mean by that is that now the classic Predator is considered weak, and now there are these kind of elite Predators, these ones that are kind of better than the other one that we've seen in the first movie, second. Pretty much them trying to say, oh yeah, those aren't the real threats, these are the real threats. I'm like, no man, you can't just kick the original Predator to the curb. First of all, I like the design of the Predator in the first two movies better than these Predators. They try to make them bulky and have these masks, different kind of masks and different weapons, and I'm just like, dude, at that point you're just kind of overkilling it for me. I think I just spit. Yeah, I see this movie made me so mad. I'm spitting at it, spitting at this film, even though it's not a rant, but still, that just I don't understand why it's such a problem with AVPR, this film, and The Predator. We gotta have super predators and elite predators and freaking predator aliens and AVPR. Like, why? What is so wrong with just leaving the classic Predator alone? Just leave it alone. Don't customize it. Don't do anything. It's fine. It's kick-ass by itself. But when you try to make it look better, you make it look worse. I'm not a fan of the masks. I'm not a fan of how they make these freaking predators all huge and freaking Incredible Hulk looking. I'm like, dude, it's just cartoony looking, and it's not intimidating. It's not scary, and that's the big problem with this movie as well. These predators are not a threat. They don't feel like threats. By the end of the movie, Adrian Brody covers himself in mud, saying the same exact lines as Arnold, and there's just no intensity. They have this twist where Eddie Brock, it's pretty much what I know him as, Topher Grace, he pretty much goes psycho out of nowhere and like poisons this girl and leaves her there. I'm like, where did this come from? So it has a lot of problems with script. It has some and really, you think, because in Aliens it works, because in Aliens you really, in the first movie, you had that build up of just one alien being dangerous, and now there's aliens, but they didn't try to make the aliens in that movie like, oh no, these are elite xenomorphs. It's like, no, these are just more xenomorphs. Here it's like they just try to kick the old Predator to the curb and say, oh yeah, well these are the elite ones. I'm like, no man, leave the old Predator alone. He's fine, he's already a badass. And the idea of how, and this isn't the first time they did this in these movies, where a predator turns into a good guy and helps humans. I mean, in AVP, I think is the one instance where it kind of worked, because just to me, it made kind of sense in that movie. There's got to be some kind of middle ground for the humans. I mean, the humans are stuck in between aliens and predators fighting. I mean, they don't really stand much of a chance. At least one side is willing to help the humans. And I really don't mind it when that happens in that film. It's just when it happens again and again and again. And it happens in this film. The classic Predator helps these guys out. They get them down and they help them out. And I'm just thinking, where does this come from? Like, I just don't know why it's become a trend. It's become a trend to they always kill the old Predator. They always got to, make him lose a battle. It's like, dude, just leave him alone, man. Just leave him alone. But, yeah, there's like a lot of bad CGI. There's bad acting. Not a really memorable score. Not really the greatest plot after the beginning. These characters don't have any chemistry. It's really a weak watch. I mean, really the only thing I can get into is that the action, when it's there, and there's a lot of action in this movie. It's actually a pretty action-packed film. But when the action is there, it's fantastic. I mean, they have great practical stuff mixed with CGI stuff. It's very intense the way it's shot. But besides that, and maybe the gore effects, I mean, there's really not much to this movie. It's not a movie that makes me mad. It's just a movie that I don't really watch that much. I don't care for. And I really don't understand when people say this movie is better than the second movie. To me, this is not nearly as good as the second movie. But anyway, that's pretty much my thoughts on Predators. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the description below Let me know in the comments below your guys' thoughts on this film. But yeah, that's pretty much my last review of the Predator movies because I haven't seen the Predator yet. I kind of don't want to watch the Predator because I heard it's pretty bad. But if I do find it somewhere, I'll check it out. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review on Predators. Hope you guys enjoyed. The Explorer 4 is out. See you guys later.